And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're sorry for being a little late with you tonight. We were trying to get a few things together. Waiting on some news, and we had hoped to have a few guests come on tonight, and a few of them just couldn't make it. And Leslie Milley was going to be with us. So God bless her heart. Her son had food poisoning, and she had to deal with that. And she may still come on the phone. And some other folks still battling the same crud that I've been battling. And we're going to get them all next week. We're going to get them all back to normal, hopefully next week, with a full slate of guests and shows. But in the meantime, you've got the Mac Man. You got him running his mouth. That should make up for 16 guests. And we're just going to rock and roll here tonight. We got a lot to talk about. To give you some updates on the latest from California. And tragedy upon tragedy upon tragedy as we watch the scenes. We've all been watching the scenes from California. I want to just say this tonight, folks. If you're out there, please listen as I'm talking. And I know that you want to update everybody. Save that till the end. And we'll give you a chance to talk. We'll give you a chance to ask questions. We'll give you a chance to have your piece. I put it out there last night. You wanted to say something about the fires, you can email us. You get one email from anybody. So it's my time to talk, and I don't mean that to be ugly, but we had a guest on last night, and there were some folks that were a little rude while she was talking. It was Priscilla's time to talk, and it was her opinion. So please give us that deference when we have a guest, that let the guest do the talking, and you'll have your chance. And if you want to come on, you're welcome to email us. We gave you a chance, and nobody did. So it's my turn tonight to talk. We're going to get Priscilla back on. I wanted to give it a few days, but we're going to have Priscilla back. Ricky Wilson will be with us Monday night, and she's going to be talking about this. She's a little bit north of that. I talked to Rachel Ham. Rachel Ham is okay. She's about 4 hours north of there, too. I thought Rachel was more closer to L.A., but she's a little bit more in Central California. But she does have, and Ricky does, too, several friends that have been affected. I've got a cousin that's about an hour south of there. Priscilla was about an hour south of that, and my cousin was probably an hour south of Priscilla. And devastation, folks, is not even the word for it tonight. This situation is going to go down. Trump himself said it today. He said it's probably going to be the costliest disaster in U.S. history. And that's not a way to start the year off on a good note. We've had a terrorist attack. Really, we've had two, and we've had this now tragic, ugly situation that has erupted in California, and there is no words to describe the carnage. I've been talking, we had a Bible study this morning, and I mentioned this morning, catastrophic, biblical, apocalyptic, once in a lifetime, biblical. I've heard that term said over and over and over again. I've heard the word prophetic, but not in a good way. I would say something about the prophetic community tonight, but I don't want to get the program started off on a bad note. It's a pathetic disgrace what some of these prophetic voices are doing and using these tragedies, what they use these tragedies to do, to get listeners and to get likes on their channel and make up a bunch of crap that God no more has told them than Adam's house cat. And I'm not saying that to be ugly. I'm not saying that to disparage anybody. But it is a disgrace. It is a disgrace. People are dying. People are fighting for their life. And people are more worried about their YouTube channels and their Telegram rooms and their television audience than they are the lives of human beings. And I'll just leave it at that. But we're going to look at some of the headlines tonight and give you the latest update here in just a second. And then we're going to talk also about Jimmy Carter's funeral today. Did y'all see the love fest between, if you don't think politics and funerals of anti-Semites make for strange bedfellows, you should have seen the video. I wish I had Tanya Ryman on. I may call Tanya up. I hadn't talked to Tanya in several years. She's been on the show before. I may just get her to come on. Maybe try to do it tomorrow night. We're going to be snowed in the hills, so I ain't going nowhere tomorrow, so I'll be right here. We're about to get walloped here in the East Tennessee mountains with a snowstorm tomorrow. And so that bodes good for me. It may be bad for you. That means I'm going to be on the air a lot tomorrow. We should have launched our weather network this week. I've been still praying about that. And but did you see the love fest today at Jimmy Carter's funeral between Barack Obama and Donald Trump? And it was hilarious. And we're going to show you a video of that. But you could have cut a knife, the air with a knife, with what Kamala looked at, the way she looked at Trump. Joe Biden didn't look at anybody. Joe Biden fell asleep. We got a picture of that in a minute. Hillary and Bill fell asleep. Hillary and Bill didn't talk to nobody, don't seem like. Bush Jr. he was giving the old bro pat to Obama and tried to act the fool he was. Pence and Donald had a sort of a tense exchange. You could tell. I don't know if Donald didn't want to shake his hand or Pence didn't want to shake his hand, but there was a moment there that I wasn't sure they were going to shake hands, but they did. I'd have loved to have been a fly on that chair to hear what Turp had to say to him. Gore was stiff owl, as he normally is, stiff-board Gore. These politicians, and I swear, these ex-presidents, you got to laugh at them. But it was a scene today. It really was. And, of course, we laid to rest the 39th President of the United States in the midst of all this stuff. The other thing we're going to talk about tonight, folks, is the Supreme Court. For those of you that hadn't heard, they rejected President Trump's bid not to be sentenced tomorrow. We're going to talk about the lawfare about that. We're going to get some folks on next week to talk about this judicial mess. Hopefully Judge Sherilyn Allen will be with us next week. We're going to try to get her. She's busy, and we're trying to get some new guests this year and get some more legal voices and people of that nature. But whenever we can get somebody, we're going to have them on and we're going to talk about it. But it's not a good day for the legal system. I thought the Supreme Court basically punted this down the road, and I think it's going to come back to they're going to rue the day they did it. They've opened a Pandora's box, and Amy Coney Barrett should be ashamed of herself. She was the one that went with the majority and basically said that there was nothing hindering Michonne from sentencing Trump tomorrow in this sham hush money case. Now, he's supposedly not going to impose any penalty. And the bottom line is, folks, they just want Trump to be weakened politically so the left can go out there on The View and Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Brainless Kimmel and the other jerk that's on there at night. I can't even remember his name, but there's three of them. But Colbert, that has the class of a jack you-know-what, they can get on their late-night shows and say that he's a convicted felon. That's all this is about. But I'm praying, from what I understand from legal experts tonight, one of the reasons Amy Coney Barrett was slow to not rule in favor of Trump was that the Supreme Court does not like to intervene in cases until they've been adjudicated, meaning after the verdict is read tomorrow. And Trump brings this case back to them later to be thrown out, it could be a different result. And if that's the case, I'm going to say I'm willing to give Amy her due, but I think she sided with the wrong team. John Roberts is just a waste of air, and I expected him to do what he did. But I was a little shocked at Amy Coney Barrett tonight. And the other break-in situation is the appeals court in D.C. has refused to stop the DOJ from releasing part of the Jack Smith report. And again, that's all political. This coming Monday night will be a week away from the inauguration. And as much mud and as much dirt as they can throw on Trump before Monday the 20th, that's what they're going to do. This report means nothing. The case has been basically just decimated. Jack Smith's probably going to face criminal charges the way he's done this stuff. I would. If I was the DOJ of Pam Bondi, I'd go after him. I would. I'd go after Alvin Bragg. I'd go after Michonne. I'd go after all of them. Because they have used the legal system to basically do a political hit job. Fannie Willis, the girl in Atlanta, would be on my radar to do a judicial review of their law licenses, and I'd disbar every one of them. But the bottom line is this. they're just trying to throw as much dirt on Trump as they can, and they're doing a good job of it. But I think the American people, for the most part, have seen through it. Our attention tonight, that we'll deal with that more next week, but I just wanted to give you that news bulletin as to what's happened just come down in the last hour. And that was one of the reasons we were delaying coming on a little bit tonight. I was waiting to get the story on that. But tonight I want to talk about these fires in California some more. Tragic situation there. 5 people are dead tonight. 10,000 acres in Eaton seems to be the biggest fire that's going. 8 different fires. Hollywood Hills has been the latest. That is, yes, that Hollywood, and it's where that iconic sign is, and I don't call it iconic in a good way. It's the most demonic sign we've got in this nation. And it's within blocks of that sign that these fires are raging tonight. And I've got some opinions about the spiritual implications of that, and we may discuss those later tonight. But just from a personal standpoint, our prayers tonight go to 2 classes of people. And that's first to the firefighters. There are some jam-up first responders that are putting their lives on the line. And possibly one of the worst wildfires, not just in California, but I would almost venture to say this is going to go down as one of the worst wildfires this country has ever seen, period. We'll just have to wait and see. It's still raging tonight. There's no end in sight. The only good news we've got weather-wise are the winds are forecast tomorrow to subside a little bit. But I heard Janice Dean this morning say that even tomorrow there could be wind gusts up to 50 to 60 miles an hour. So think about how strong these winds have been, folks. You've got Hurricane Category 2 winds blowing these flames right now. And, yeah, it's going to subside, but it's not going to subside a lot. I mean, to go from 90 miles an hour to 60 is, I guess, a little better. But a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust will destroy a block of homes in a second with flames going that fast. So, you know, our prayers for these firefighters, because they're doing the best they can tonight. They've been hamstrung by their leadership. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to take your comments. I'm going to put a question in the YouTube page tonight about the leadership, and I'm going to start a poll, and I'm interested in how you feel about this. And it's a simple question: should Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass resign? And I'm very curious to see what kind of percentage that we've got for that tonight. And John and Qualum, it's so good to see you. John's up in California. I think, John, I'm thinking you told me you're more north of there. And but our prayers for all you folks in California. That's the other people we're praying for tonight. We're praying for all the citizens of California tonight, but especially those affected by these fires. This is a personal tragedy. This is not a political football. This is not even a Bernie Sanders. There has to be no dumber man on this earth than Bernie Sanders. I got to say what I got to say. There's got to be no dumber individual and more stupider bunch than this left-wing, loon bomb wing of this country. Bernie's out there decrying climate change, that this is the fire. This is the reason the fire started. That's the only thing the left does. When anything like this happens, that's their message. That's their pulpit, is climate change. No sympathy for the people. Nothing but Elizabeth Warren's out there doing the same thing tonight. All of it. Same verse, song, same song, second verse. My concern is for these people that have lost homes. $35 million, $40 million, $50 million homes reduced to ash just like this. We're going to play a video from actor James Woods tonight. There's another part of this story that we're trying to get a handle on, and that's the insurance angle. A lot of these companies canceled insurance policies just months before this fire. And, look, folks, I'm not a conspiracy person, but I will tell you, it's getting harder and harder to not believe that some of these things are being done deliberately. And in addition to that, did the insurance companies know something was up? I know that their narrative is, their take on it, is that they, did a lot of these policies, canceled a lot of them because of prior events in California. And, whether that's true or not, I guess only God knows what these insurance companies' motive was. But a lot of people have lost their homes tonight without any kind of insurance coverage. And there ain't going to be no building back unless they got 35 or 40 million bucks hanging around in a savings account somewhere. And let's just be frank, even in California, people don't have that. 13.5% taxes, I understand, some of those rates in L.A. That's just local taxes, local income taxes. That's a criminal rate to pay not to have water in your fire hydrant. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let's get to the update on our newswire, and we're going to show you some video from the Carter funeral. Trump this week, we've already mentioned this tonight. Trump has said this tonight. The Los Angeles fires could be the most costly in U.S. history. He said these fires that have wreaked havoc could be the most costly in terms of money in the history of the U.S. He shared his thoughts on Truth Social on yesterday, which he also revealed some are concerned about whether or not insurance companies will have the funds even to cover the profound loss of property in Pacific Palisades and other areas of the county rocked by infernos. And there's the tweet right there. The fires in L.A. may go down in dollar amount as the worst in the history. In many circles, they're doubting whether insurance companies will even have enough money to pay for this catastrophe. Let this serve and be an emblematic of the gross incompetence and mismanagement of the Biden-Newsom duo. January 20th cannot come fast enough. He tweeted that out yesterday on January the 8th. By the way, this individual right here is the mayor of L.A., the illustrious Karen Bass. She knew of a fire risk before abandoning L.A. for a Ghana trip. Let me explain that to you. Some of you may have heard this. Some of you may not have. The National Weather Service in California, there's a National Weather Service office in most major cities, and they have regions. But the Weather Service office that covers L.A. County had issued a warning just a week ago that conditions were developing for the potential for the very thing that happened. They warned the citizens of California ahead of time that these conditions were coming together, dry conditions. They've had a horribly dry summer, a horribly dry fall, or let me go back, the heat, record heat in the summer, a horribly dry fall. The timber around L.A. County was already parched. There was no water, hardly at all. There had been no rain hardly at all for nearly 2.5 months. And the Weather Service said these conditions and the Santa Ana winds coming across the valley were setting the stage for a fire these fires that have erupted. And again, to this night, I've not heard the source. I asked Priscilla that last night. She didn't know. And I don't think anybody has come forward and said, hey, these fires were started as a result of ABC. We just know they started. And whether they were set deliberately, I got to say this, Pat Boone, I respect Pat Boone. Don't agree with everything he says. I heard him say something today, and I'm going to deal with this in a minute. We may elaborate on this a little bit more, but he believes that this was done deliberately, and he lives in the Hollywood Hills area. And I'll give you his theory in a minute. But the National Weather Service warned Bass. They warned the whole state. They warned everybody in Southern California these things were coming together to take place, and that the fire danger was beyond extremely high. It was off the charts. Well, Karen Bass decides that she wants to go attend a funeral in Ghana, Africa, of all places, during this week of a president she didn't even know. And that's what Breitbart is reporting tonight, that she knew of the fire risk, abandoning L.A. for a Ghana trip. We have multiple reports that she knew of the grave risk to her city before she abandoned it for a taxpayer-funded, quote-unquote, diplomatic trip to Ghana in Western Africa. Thursday, January the 2nd, the National Weather Service explicitly warned L.A. about extreme fire conditions over the next week. Jonathan O'Brien, a meteorologist with the U.S. Forest Service, spoke to officials, posted openly about the incoming threat, O'Brien noted that the weather models for Southern California showed a strong extreme Santa Ana wind event starting Tuesday, the 7th, which was 2 days ago. This was a week ago, folks. They were telling her this. January the 3rd, last Friday, Rose Schoenfield, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, gave a briefing that warned that the lack of rain this winter season, coupled with forecasted strong winds, posed an imminent threat. An imminent threat. Saturday, fire weather watches and high wind watches are in effect Tuesday through Friday of next week, warned the Weather Service. So what does Miss Bass do? Well, on Saturday, January the 4th, she jets off to Africa to attend the inauguration of Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Now, mind you, when she got back from that trip, Ghana's not a skip and a jump. Ghana's halfway around the world. She knew what was going on. I'm sure her people notified her in Ghana that your city's on fire and you need to return. Well, she had all of that trip to fly back home. She gets to the airport and the reporters are asking her about why she went to Africa. She had nothing to say. It's not like she said yay, nay, in between or whatever. She said nothing. She said nothing. Do you not believe some press person could have maybe at least made her say, hey, we're sorry for the loss of life. We're sorry for what's happened. I'm the mayor. I apologize for not being here. Do you think she'd had the class to even offer any condolences to the families that had lost loved ones? Because there were deaths already Tuesday night. There were people who had lost everything they've got when she got back. No. That's the dim leadership of California. I got to say this, folks. I got to say this. You Californians, I hope, and I'm not talking about to people like John Qualm, because John I know is conservative. There's a good part of California, and I was watching some of them on TV tonight, moaning the leadership that they themselves, and they've admitted that they've put this leadership over them for years. And they're complaining about it tonight. Well, you voted it in. You voted it in. And this is what you're reaping. And it's almost reminiscent to me of the golden calf at the bottom of the mountain of Sinai, when Moses grounded that powder up and made the children of Israel drink the powder of that poisonous idol. And Californians, I love you, and I'm not trying to, it's not a time to scold you. It's not a scold. But I do pray that this event will wake your eyes up to who you're electing. Look, I know Hollywood is in a shock tonight, and a lot of movie stars, and I don't say this lightly. Look, I don't rejoice in anybody losing their home. I don't. There was one of them on Jesse Walter's program tonight, raging liberal. Her brother's a raging liberal, but she said something that made the most sense I've ever heard somebody say. And she said, we need to stop looking at the letter beside a person's name to determine whether they're going to do the right thing in crisis and a right thing in leadership. And I said, my God, somebody has found Jesus. My God, somebody has woke up. Somebody has come to Jesus and found the Lord. And I'm not saying that lightly. And what her point was is this, because Jesse asked her, he said, what do you think would happen tonight if y'all had a major earthquake? Would you trust Gavin Newsom? Would you trust Karen Bass? If LA was hit by an earthquake or California was hit by another natural disaster, that they would do any better than they've done with these fires? And it was an emphatic no. And you could tell she wanted to put a few vernaculars in front of it, but it was a family show on Jesse, so she couldn't. But she wasn't too happy about it. As she shouldn't be happy about it, folks, as the whole state of California don't need to be happy about it. But I do hope tonight, and I say this with, again, no scold. Look, I'm hurting for these families. It saddens me. These scenes are heartbreaking. The testimonies I'm hearing are heartbreaking. People are breaking down. I watched a family today, and when the father made the comment, he had his daughters, his two daughters and his wife in his arms. They had lost everything, and he told the reporter, he said, I can hopefully rebuild the house. But he grabbed his family and he said, I couldn't rebuild this. He said, I can't replace them. And he said, we're just grateful we're alive at this point. And I think that's the attitude tonight of many Californians that have survived this with their life. James Wood said the same thing. He said, we lost our home. Him and his wife lost their home that they had built for years. He said, we're just fortunate. He said, our fate is better than the 5 people that have died. And I think that that's the reality many people are waking up to. But I want to go back to Bass. The pathetic, disgraceful leadership that has been over the city of Los Angeles and the state of California for multiple years, and I would say decades, is coming home to roost tonight. It's coming home to roost. And it's sad that it's having to be at the expense of people's livelihoods, their homes, and their lives. It's a shame. She should have never taken that trip to Africa. She knew the danger. She knew what was being posed. She got on that plane to do it for political points and political things for her own promotion, while people in LA were at risk. And when it happened, she had nothing to say when she got back. Total, complete silence. Total, complete silence. So, all you folks in LA that ran to the polls to vote, I hope you're happy. And I don't mean that flippantly tonight. 8 simultaneous wildfires have wreaked havoc on LA. 1,000 structures destroyed. This is a few days ago. 2 confirmed dead. That's an old report. The latest total is 5 are dead. Look at that picture right there. That is Sunset Boulevard. And very, very tragic situation. The Santa Ana winds will strengthen Thursday, last into Friday for inland areas. This is out of San Diego. Slightly weaker than Wednesday for areas north of San Diego County. Slightly stronger than Wednesday for San Diego County. Critical fire weather conditions are expected. This was last night, late. Look at the other fire picture right there. And so forth. We're going to talk about this story in a minute. I'll get back to that one. I want to read a few other stories. This story here is one that we're following, and we're going to try to get somebody. I forgot about Lori Mills. We may get Lori Mills on Friday night. The Los Angeles homeowners in insurance crisis as the wildfires blaze on. California residents have been long struggling with insurance companies that no longer want to protect their homes. And thousands, I want you to look at this, including 1,600 in the now devastated Pacific Palisades neighborhoods were dropped in the months leading up to this week's wildfires. One of the approximately 8,900 occupied housing units in LA's. Nearly 80% are owner-occupied according to the 2022 U.S. Census. And according to this, State Farm dropped a staggering 1,600, folks, homeowner insurance policies in the neighborhood in July. That's equivalent to about 18% of the owner-occupied homes, California Department of Insurance spokesman Michael Soler told CBS on Thursday. In August 24, analysts of insurance data conducted by CBS revealed that State Farm also dropped over 2,000 policies in 2 additional LA zip codes, which include the neighborhoods of Brentwood, Calabasas, Hidden Hills, and Montanito. Throughout all of California, State Farm discontinued coverage for 72,000 homes last year. Over 100,000 state residents have lost their home insurance since 2019. And then this was prior to what happened on the fire Tuesday, which is set to become one of the state's most costliest ever. And the number damaged or destroyed is in the thousands. And I want you to look at James Woods' quote right here. He says, actually, one of the major insurance companies canceled all the policies in our neighborhood about 4 months ago. And Rick Saxton tweeted this out just yesterday. He said, it looks like people panicking and end up blocking roads, wrecking cars, stacked up and abandoned. Doesn't look good for those who live there. I'm wondering if insurance companies will treat them better than those that got flooded out and lost their homes in the East U.S. and the Appalachian Hills. Let me answer that, Rick. I'm glad you brought that up. We had a gentleman in the house last night, and I know he was a little upset I had to delete the comment. I didn't like the way he said it because I don't want California to rot. But I'm glad he brought that up because, Rick, no, I'll answer that question for you. No, they're not going to treat you guys any differently than they did the North Carolina folks, because we got people in North Carolina still suffering, still living in tents tonight, thanks to the insurance companies not doing their job, thanks to the federal banking government not doing their job, thanks to the dumb blank governor of North Carolina not doing his job, and not being prepared for Hurricane Helene back in the fall. Folks, let me tell you something. I'm not trying to make this a political statement about Dems or Republicans, but the two worst disasters we've had in this country over the last 6 months has been Hurricane Helene, and you can throw Milton in there a little bit, but Helene especially up here in these hills. And this fire in California, what do they have in common with these states of California and New York? You guessed it, they have a D beside their name. They have a D beside their name. Look, Ron DeSantis had two major hurricanes hit his state. He had Helene come up the panhandle, the little curve. Milton followed almost the same path. And I'm going to tell you something. DeSantis didn't have these issues in Florida. Look, you can't control the weather, as some morons claim man can. But I'm going to tell you this right now. The effects of the weather, man does have the power to clean up after what happens. And Ron DeSantis, and I've given him a tip of the hat. I know some people don't like Ron. I'm not one of them. I think Ron's a good guy. And if he comes into the ticket on 2028 in some form, I'll be right there voting for him. I hope J.D. Vance will run. It'd be a great ticket, Vance and DeSantis. I think that would be a jam-up ticket. I think he's in one hell of a job in Florida. I do. I think he has done one heck of a job in Florida. And you Floridians should be very grateful for Ron DeSantis. But he handled his hurricane issues with no problems. There ain't nobody living in tents in Florida. He had the National Guard there before the hurricanes hit. He had everything in preparation. There was none of this crap that's going on in North Carolina. There certainly ain't none of the crap that's going on in California. Ron DeSantis even offered his help to Gavin Newsom. I'd like to be a fly on the wall to see if Gavin Newsom accepted that help. I would probably venture to say he didn't. And he probably won't. Leadership matters. That's what I'm really trying to say. Leadership matters. Leadership matters. Elections matter. The way we vote matters. Who we put over us to lead matters. It's like Trump said one year, anything that goes woke turns to beep. Beep. Everything that turns to woke turns to blank. You can thank a woke California tonight for what's happening, folks. Here's James Wood. I want you to listen to this. Watch this video. This is James Wood explaining what I just said.
It's astonishing that what happened during this experience was that we found out that none of us is a celebrity, none of us is a poor person or a rich person, a Democrat or a Republican. We were just neighbors, just really helping each other. That one video was my neighbor who, after we had evacuated, before he evacuated, ran down to my house to try to stop that fire coming over my deck because he saw it from his deck. I mean, amazing. Devastating as it was an extraordinary experience of realizing how essential good neighbors, good friends, good relatives. My home is a building. It was we worked 3 years putting the homes together. We loved our little house, but it means nothing compared to the 5 people that lost their lives.
That is very well said. I like James Wood. He is one of the good guys out there tonight, and I'm going to tell you something. He's a good man. He's a good man. I appreciate him. He's been a very strong supporter of President Trump, I can tell you, for the entire 8 years of Trump's presidency. And my prayers go to him and his family. And like he said, my problems are very minor compared to the 5 people that lost their lives. But he was one of the ones that got whacked by the insurance in their neighborhood. They had no insurance to cover their loss. So we're going to follow that. I don't know what recourse is going to come of that. I think Trump will hopefully do something when he gets into office. We'll see. We'll see. And so forth. All right, let me go on. We've got a couple more stories to talk about with you tonight. This is, you got to love Karen Bass. You just got to love Karen Bass. You got to watch this press conference, folks. You got to watch this press conference. This is California. This is your choice for mayor of Los Angeles.
Build stronger than ever. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this. Through the heroism of our firefighters, the vigilant.
You heard that right. She did not even know. She did not even know her own website. Look, you ain't got to be a computer junkie. www. The URL is. Please, don't get me started. The website's not the URL. URL is like www.lacity.com. Well, that's the URL. She told the people the website is URL. Lord help us. Imbeciles. Nothing but imbeciles. And Greg Price here says, Mayor Karen Bass literally just read the words URL off her script during the press conference instead of the emergency website for the victims of the fire. I think we have a new winner for the most incompetent politician in America. Greg, I'm not sure for the most incompetent, but I have to tell you she's up there. Folks, let me just say this about this. You know what burns me up with that more than the gaffe? These dumb blank politicians like her, at a time like this, are reading a script. She don't mean a word she says there. I was thinking about this tonight coming on the show. Do you know what the most misused term has been in politics for the last 30 years in this country? Are you ready for this? The American people. The American people. Have you noticed that every politician in D.C., the senators, the representatives, the judges, the press secretaries, we're here for the American people. What we're doing and sticking it up your rear is for the American people. What we're doing, not putting fire hoses and putting water in your hydrants, is for the American people. We're fighting for the American people. That's the most misused term. And when these dumb blank politicians get on there and a cold-hearted, just read a script off instead of talking from the heart and getting in front of a microphone and apologizing to the people of LA and pleading with people to help and pleading with people to say, look, we're here for you. We're going to get some funds in here. We're going to get some water. We're going to do what we can to get it. Do you know why they didn't have the water, folks? They were protecting a freaking extinct fish. Fish! That is incompetence on a level that goes beyond incompetence. That's just plain wickedness. Let me explain that to you. One of the signs of the last days that the Bible talks about in 2 Timothy, it talks about people not having natural affection. Without natural affection, meaning they will have affection for things other than life. In other words, California was more concerned with the livelihood and the life expectancy of a dartfish than they were human life. But Mr. Gavin Newsom was out there saying, we're here to help the American people. I stood with the real president today, Joe Biden, and we're fighting for the American people. I should do a show on just getting some clips of that. How many times I've heard a politician tell me that we're fighting for the American people. That is the most misused and abused term I've ever heard, and I am sick of hearing it. Because the American people, the people in North Carolina and I heard that all up and down the time they were begging the federal government to get off their carcasses and get something done down there. And Pierre, Jane Pierre, whatever her name is, we are just here to get the work of the American people done. While they let North Carolina sink into a sinkhole of hell. And they're doing the same thing tonight. But see, this is the thing. California is the golden boy because it's Gavin's state. So we got to, we're going to pay their bills for them for 5 months and screw those North Carolinians because they voted for Trump. I'll amen myself on that one. I'll amen myself on that one. I will amen myself on that one. I will amen myself on that one. Let me go back to my newswire. Dumb. That's all I got to say. By the way, now I'm going to really get myself in trouble. Did you know what they were celebrating today, by the way? This is going to make you madder. The LGBTQ community is rejoicing tonight over the fires because the Kristen Crowley, who is a LGBTQ, the LA County's first LGBTQ fire chief, is proof that the lesbians get it done, sparking backlashes over priorities during the city's historic disaster. As the Palisades fire engulfed LA, wealthy Pacific Coast neighborhoods, reducing more than 1,000 homes to rubble, the left-leaning Pride magazine's celebratory portrayal of Fire Chief Kristen Crowley has ignited outrage. Amid Palisades fire, LA's first LGBTQ fire chief is proving lesbians get it done. I got to ask you a question tonight about that. I'll ask you a question about that when we get to your comments tonight. I'll let you fill in the blanks whether you think they're getting it done. Folks, I'm going to tell you this. I got to say something about this. I'm going to make it clear to every firefighter that's listening to me in LA tonight. We love you. We're behind you. We know you're doing the best job you can do. This is not directed at you, what I'm about to say. What it is directed is at these bureaucrats that is running the show and telling you what to do. The bureaucrats is what's going to cause some of you, sadly, to lose your life. And I hate to say that. But it's the policies of Gavin Newsom and the policies of Karen Bass. Folks, do you realize that they put $20 billion, actually I heard $100 billion. They put $100 billion in the homeless last year in California alone. In LA, I should have wrote those names down. There were 3 LGBTQ groups that Karen Bass put hundreds of thousands of dollars behind. And then tonight, when she was asked about why did you cut the budget of the fire department, she smugly says, well, not a penny that we took away from the fire department would have made a bit of difference in the response to this tragedy. This is a family show. This is a family show, and I've tried to cut a new leaf. I am not going to say what I want to say tonight. I will go get a bar of soap after I'm done with the show and wash my mouth out with what I want to say. I'll think it. How about that? I'll think it. But that's what happens when you're more concerned about hiring a lesbian as your fire chief that has no clue what he or she, I don't even know what he or she is at this point, is doing. You understand? And lives. Look, let me tell you this. You want to put an LGBTQ person over the fire department, I don't care who you put over there, what their sexual orientation is. What I do care is whether they're prepared to handle a disaster and prepared to handle something that's handled. And it's pretty blanking evident tonight that he or she is not. That's what matters. And let me tell you why it matters tonight. That number right there, which is likely to go up eventually. You know what this number is? That's the number of people that have died tonight. The number 1,000. At least 1,000 homes have been melted down to ash because of incompetent blanking leadership and the lack of it in LA, in California. And a DEI hire because somebody wanted a lesbian in office and not a qualified fire leader. Yes. It angers me. It should anger you. And it does not prove that they're getting it done. It proves my point. By the way, this is Joe Biden today. I'm sure that you heard about this. He didn't have nothing to say like he normally does. This was yesterday, actually. No, this was today. Joe Biden took the time today not to deal with the grieving families, but to announce some personal good news where he says, I'm a great-grandfather. While standing next to Newsom, he made an announcement about his family. Here it is.
Watch this before.
Hang on just a second.
Milks.
Gotta play the ad. There we go.
It's astounding what's happening. The only one piece of good news, my son was out here in the way. They got a notification yesterday their home was probably burned down. Today, it appears that maybe still standing, I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great-grandfather as of today. I was a granddaughter. I'm a baby girl, a baby boy. So I can remember this day for a lot of wrong reasons. Anyway.
That's our illustrious leader right now. And let me get that off. But I'll just leave it at that. By the way, now I'm getting to Mr. Newsom, or Newscum as some called him. CNN, folks, let me say this. We're almost done. I want to get to your questions here in a minute. I got to show you the clip about Obama and Trump. When you lose CNN, Gavin, you're in trouble. Anderson Cooper interviewed him today. And Trump, look, folks, you can say what you want to. And look, I'm not going to get into the fact whether the timing of Trump's comments are right or wrong. I'm mad. I'm mad with Trump. I'm hurt for these families. This did not have to happen. Look, we have natural disasters in this country all the time. We have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, we have floods, we have blizzards, we have fires, we have earthquakes. These things happen. This earth is shaking. Okay? I'm not blaming Gavin Newsom. If this was a natural disaster, the fire was started. That's not what I'm blaming him for. I'm not even blaming Karen Bass for the fire itself. What I am blaming them for is their lack of leadership. And yes, there could have been more done to prepare for this, because when you're dealing with 80 to 90 mile an hour winds blowing a flame that across the timber brush of California, and by the way, Newsom was warned 9 years ago by Trump, you need to get this cut back. Went in one ear and out the other. And by the way, tonight, Gavin Newsom, you know what he's doing? Do you think that he really gives two-bit blank pens less about you people in Southern California? He's spending $25 million that could go to help some of you rebuild your homes. He's spending it on a special legislative session, for one thing, to get Trump. To Trump-proof L.A. I'm sure that we will have that story. The story's on Breitbart. We'll have that story posted on our news site here tomorrow morning. Chris ain't going nowhere. I'm going to have a long day ahead of me, because I'm about to get snowed in down here in the hills of Tennessee. But let me tell you this. When CNN catches on to the gig, you screwed, Gavin. And I think Anderson Cooper, which I'm no fan of, he asked him a good question. Gavin tried to turn it on Trump, as Gavin always does. No responsibility. And he said, you local folks handle this water problem. It's not my problem. It's your local problem. Roll tape.
What's the latest?
Well, 5 dead, likely more. Just completed another devastation. I've been in a lot of these fires, a lot. Going back to Paradise, and this approximates Paradise. It's not a numeric, it's just a feeling, sense of loss, place, belonging.
Still no containment.
No, we're at zero containment. The winds have been a little bit more favorable, as you've seen in the last few hours. And we've got the helicopters back up. We've got some fixed-wing aircraft. Out on the coast, it's a little different. It's pretty intense. We have 23 aerial assets just at the Palisades, but a lot of them are not operational because of those winds. So it's a combination of challenges. That said, we've depleted all our resources. Northern California, we already pre-positioned on Sunday. Hundreds of personnel, special units, water tenders, dozers, engines, helicopters, and it wasn't enough. And now we're getting the mutual aid system, the EMAX system. Governors from all across the country are calling. Oregon sending a few dozen engines, and in Arizona, Utah, which is grateful for all the support.
A lot of these firefighters I was talking to on the street, they've been working 26, 27 hours. are they that's just going to continue? I mean, there's enough of those here.
Yeah, I mean, we got a few thousand people working on this, and luckily we were fully staffed. The U.S. Forest Service is staffed up traditionally at this time of year. Remember, we're in January.
It's supposed to be wet this time of year.
I mean, so this is anomalous. Even I remember Paradise happened in November. I mean, so there's no fire season in California. It's year round, but to have this level of acuity of fires is without precedent. These winds are without precedent. And the challenge is these winds are going to continue on and off, a little bit less intense. Last night, you got 80, 90 mile-an-hour winds. These guys were just up there to try to mitigate the embers going 2 miles and getting just to go a quarter of a mile to try to save some.
What is the situation with water? Obviously, in Palisades ran out last night. The hydrants, I was trying to firefighter in this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here.
The local folks are trying to figure that out. I mean, just when you have a system that's not dissimilar to what we've seen in other extraordinarily large-scale fires, whether it be pipe, electricity, or whether it just be the complete overwhelm of the system. I mean, those hydrants are typical for 2 or 3 fires, maybe 1 fire. You have something at this scale, but again, that's going to be determined by the local.
What is the same part of it is the gravity that it's these giant tanks on top of the mountains, which...
Yeah, well, they're going down. We were just with the team. They're getting the tenders down to Pasadena, filling things back up, coming back up. So it's just
aerial assets now able to fly.
Yeah, they've been the last few hours, particularly the helicopters. Fixed wing's been up a little bit earlier, but out on the coast it's been a little more stubborn because those winds are swirling. The challenge is, you can see that they can fly. It's not a question of turbulence or anything else. It's just the mitigations flying all over the place. So it doesn't have any benefit necessarily. So we've got National Guard working rattlesnake teams out there on the line. We're also trying to bring them in to supplement some law enforcement efforts as well. It's all hands on deck across the spectrum. The biggest thing, though, and it's been happening today, sincerely, and you can appreciate a community like this to get that direct individual assistance with the major disaster declaration within 36 hours of this incident from the president was a game changer for this community, for small businesses, etc. So, not that we're thinking about the next phase.
You see, he gives Joe Biden credit for getting things in there 36 hours. I'm not going to play the rest of this crap, but I did put it down there. He made the statement about Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump wanted to politicize this, adding, I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say, but I won't. And then he says, what's the situation with the water? And he said, obviously, the Palisades, it ran out last night. Well, Gavin, that ran out because of you. And he said, I was talking to the firefighter on this block. They left because there was no water in the hydrant here. His answer is that the local folks are trying to figure that out. The local folks. Let me say something to Gavin Newsom tonight. It ain't the local folks' problem, Gavin. It's your problem. You're the governor. 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 And you're out spending $25 million tonight on a legislative session to Trump-proof California. You might want to be spending some more money to fireproof California, Gavin. Because people are dead in your state, sir. And it's going to wind up costing California the most money. You need to resign immediately, as should Karen Bass. You're not going to. I know you won't. I know she won't either. The media will protect you to a degree. But I'm praying, as I said a while ago, folks, that beyond the spiritual part of this, and I'm going to deal with more of the spiritual part of it tomorrow night probably, definitely Sunday. But just from the human side and just from the common sense side, leadership matters. And I just hope that maybe this will wake you folks up in California as to who's running your country and running your state. You see, he has aspirations for the White House in 2028. He has aspirations, and I have no doubt that had Kamala Harris in some freaky, wild, speaking of apocalyptic, biblical nightmare, had got elected in November, what you see happening in California would have been happening all over this country. That is a prophetic picture of where America was headed, and I'm not so sure it ain't a prophetic picture where we ain't headed anyway. But I'll get into that more later. That's not for tonight. But that's leadership, folks. So, you Californians, heads up. Listen to this Southerner. Listen to this Southerner give you a little bit of friendly advice, not that you're going to take it. Leadership matters, and I'm going to repeat what Justine Bateman said tonight, who's not a raging conservative by any stretch, and her brother sure ain't. Stop looking at the letter. Put your Trump hatred down. Put your brains back in your head. Get your head out of your backside. Wake up! Your state is on fire. Your state is on fire. And your leaders don't know what to do about it. And your state's going up in smoke, literally. And you're more worried about Trump-proofing your state. That's what your leaders are concerned about tonight. Your leaders are more concerned about putting a lesbian in charge of the fire department for the DEI quota. Your leaders are more concerned about saving a dark fish instead of having enough water to contain a natural disaster that God knows when it's going to end. It's not ending anytime soon, folks. There's 8 fires raging tonight. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination. None. And there's no rain in the forecast from what I can read on the weather charts. There ain't no help coming from above. At least not now. Perhaps after you've drank of this bitter cup that you're drinking of tonight, maybe, just maybe, you will understand why leadership matters over you. We Southerners, we may be a bunch of rednecks to you out there, you elitists, and you that have all these 35, 40, 50, $60 million homes. You just like us tonight. You just like us tonight. You understand. You're understanding a lot of things that we Southerners have always understood, that life is more important, and common sense and brains are more important than DEI, and value and character and integrity is far more important than political expediency. We understand those things down south. Most Southerners do. We're looked upon as a bunch of rednecks and a bunch of backwoods people, and that's fine. We earn that, and we take it as a badge of honor. I don't even let it offend me. But I sit back and I watch the state tonight not know what to do with the situation because its leadership don't have values, and they don't have integrity. They don't have character. They don't have a clue of what is really going on in this earth. And they have turned California into an abysmal hell. And it's a literal hell tonight. And I don't mean that lightly. And I don't mean that with any glee. It hurts me to see it. It hurts to see these images of these people and to listen to these people talk about the loss of their homes. You can thank your governor for the response. You can thank your governor for the response. And that's exactly what he wanted. That's what he got. And you got your DEI woke state, Gavin. I hope you're enjoying it burned to the ground, because that's exactly what it's doing tonight. And let me just say this before I get going. I'm going to show you one couple of videos here tonight before we get out of here. This is another video about the insurance. Roll the tape. Roll the tape on this.
They're waving me down. Hi there. That's fine. You decided not to leave.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just lost. They got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old. They lived in this house for 75 years. And they have the same insurance. And these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So, thank you, California insurance companies, supporting residents who pay taxes and love California.
5 houses burning, not a firefighter in sight. They are just stretched that thin, and there's going to be structural protection in those areas. In some areas, of course, as you know, the homes are built on the bluff, and those fires just run up the mountains, if you will, and take them out. And of course, many of you people have read that we have no insurance here now. The fire insurance has been canceled by so many people. There's a lot of heat coming off this. Can you see the average?
They wonder why people leave California.
First and foremost, you did get your parents out safely.
I live in Sierra Madre, my parents are in Sierra Madre, but...
And now you know that it is under evacuation as well, and up to Sierra Madre Boulevard.
Yeah, he's stuck here. You know, there's a will, there's a way. Probably shouldn't do it, but you know what? Under the circumstances, send me to jail.
Here's another video. I think this is James Wood talking to Laura Ingraham tonight. It may be the same video, but I think he says a few different things. Watch this tape. I think this is James
Laura,
Wood
with
tonight.
all due respect, if it is true that things were handled this way, if it is true that Gavin Newsom is the absolute blithering idiot that I believe he is in the way he has handled fire management in this state again and again and again and again, this isn't a wake-up call. This is the kind of thing they have tribunals for, where they try people and say, you had an oath of office to perform certain duties. When you're the fire chief, this isn't a social justice exercise that you're in charge of. This is you getting water to areas that need water because there are fires and 100-mile-an-hour winds burning houses to the ground. I watched on a Ring camera a guy have to sit and watch his pet burn to death. You know, those things are issues of the heart when you watch a cherished little pet. Or, you know, look, my home is a building. It was our... We worked 3 years putting the homes together. We loved our little house. But it means nothing compared to the 5 people who lost their lives.
James,
so the wake-up call...
Yeah, I hear you. And again, we're going to learn a lot more about.
And that video was part of the video we played earlier, but he was talking about the absolute dereliction of duty. These insurance companies, folks, doing this has just been... We're going to follow this story next week. This is Donald Trump... changing the subject here at the end. We're going to take your questions here in a second. This is Donald Trump at the funeral today. You got to watch this, folks. This is priceless stuff. Watch the reaction as he arrives at the funeral service for Jimmy Carter. Man, I would love to have a body language expert for this. Roll the tape. Watch this. He shakes hands with Pence. This is him and Obama. I guess Obama has decided to be friends with Hitler. He just called Trump Hitler just 2 months ago. Well, he must not be too bad a Hitler because looks like Obama was enjoying the company.
With President Carter and Ms. Carter one time, and they were great people, and I'm so sorry for his loss. And thank you so much.
There's Al Gore.
And you are seeing their former president, Barack Obama, sitting right next to President-elect Donald Trump. Of course, we don't know what they're saying to each other, but that is inside the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Live. We're showing live.
That looks like Dan Quayle, Gore, Pence, Bush Jr. there beside Laura. The Clintons at the end, folks. You got to love the Clintons. Nobody wanted to talk to them today. But there's old Obama and Trump just getting along great. Okay. All righty. We got to show you a few pictures from this. This is funny. I caught a few glimpses. You got to look at this picture right here, and we're going to take your questions after this. Some of you a little chit-chatty tonight for some reason. Hang on just a second. Let me get, hang on 1 second. I hit the wrong button there. let me get that out of the way. Did you, if you look at this, Joe Biden's asleep. Kamala Harris got her eyes closed. Hillary's got her eyes closed. Poor Bill, he never has his eyes closed. There's Obama and Trump talking. Bush, his wife, is looking down at something. Hillary's looking down. Joe right there. I'm not so sure what Joe's doing, but Joe is not here. There's Joe right here. Let me put him up here. Let me get this. And there's Joe, Hillary, Bush, his wife. But Obama and Trump, they just going at it. There's a scene where this one, you could have taken a knife into what as she looked at Trump, how she looked at Trump when she sat down. I thought that was hilariously funny. And then I think this one right here, she looked very stoic. Kamala did. You could tell that, boy, look at those. Look at that look. Woo! Mercy. Mercy, mercy. Mercy, if looks could kill. If looks could kill. And roll the tape. That was Bill looking up at the ceiling to make sure nobody was coming to get him to arrest him. Hillary was looking up at the ceiling to make sure that she wasn't going to jail. Bush Jr., I don't think he knew what he was doing there. I got to say this, and I'm going to take your questions. Michelle Obama was vacationing in Hawaii today. She said she had a scheduling conflict. Can you imagine if she would have showed up and Barack and Donald were chummy like they were and she was sitting there? I just say this, that the Obama bedroom is going to be colder than the waters of the Titanic Atlantic for the next 6 months. And if I was Barack Obama, I wouldn't go back to Hawaii. I would tell her that I've got some business in Kenya that I need to take care of, Michelle, and I'll be back next year. That's just me. I'm just saying. But let me say this about Melania Trump. Of all the people there, and I put Donald Trump in this category because I think he had a lot of class showing up, because a lot of those people have said nothing but hateful, ugly, the ugliest rhetoric against him. He never fails to show up with these things with his head held high. But the one person that I had the most respect for today was Melania Trump. She sat there, and Joe Biden in front of her had her home raided at Mar-a-Lago, her clothing raided, her son's bedroom's clothing raided, in a scam document search that Joe Biden was guilty of 10 times more while he was actually vice president than Donald Trump could have ever done. And she sat there with her head high. You could tell she was uncomfortable. I'd have been uncomfortable. But she showed up with class, as Melania Trump has. More in her little pinky than every single one of those jackanapes that you saw on that screen other than Donald Trump, her husband. And that's my 2 cents tonight. All righty. I'm done. Yeah, Jason, you're right. That's something that people don't understand. You make a good point. There's no love lost between the Harrises and the Bidens, and there's no love lost between the Clintons and the Bidens. There's really no love lost. There was a couple of times when you saw a few shots of Obama looking at Kamala, he wasn't smiling. And she wasn't, when she looked back and saw them chum-chumming, did you see that look? She, Lord have mercy. Woo-wee! Wouldn't you like to have been a little fly in that little head to see what thoughts were going across that forehead? Mercy alive. Don't these political things don't they just they just give you the warm fuzzies. They just give you the warm fuzzies. Anyway, Bear, you're right. She's a very extremely gracious and classy lady. Laura, you're right. She's a very gracious lady. And Laura, I'm glad to hear that. Canada is sending firefighters and some aircraft to California. And I'm grateful to hear that. They need it tonight. They need it. If you got a question tonight, folks, anything that you got, it's your time to ask. Watch what happens now. Nobody ask it now that I'm giving you the chance to. But that's all right. Sometimes people listen to me. Some people, they don't. Dennis Floyd says, due to high winds, the planes were unable to carry in water from the ocean. Is this still the case? Yes, Dennis, it is. But, you know, Dennis, again, the natural disaster part of this, the weather part of this, look, nobody can control that. I mean, that's nobody's fault. But the water should have already been there. The water, these planes should not be having to carry water in there, buddy. I mean, I see your question, but yeah, the winds are going to die down a little bit tomorrow. It's what I understand with the weather report. But as far as the last couple of days, these winds have been in category, a 90 to 100 mile an hour gust of wind is a category 2 hurricane. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff to be carrying flames. And there's no way you can fly in that. There was a video in one of the planes. There was a guy on Fox. They were trying to take off. A plane was trying to take off from the LA airport Tuesday when this first started. And the captain told him, he said, we're about to fly into turbulent weather. And the guy was like, I mean, he was probably saying the same thing I would have been saying. Okay, you see the flames. You see the smoke. Why are we flying out? Stop the plane. Why are we flying anyway? And, but Dennis, it's been very dangerous. Yeah, I mean, that is still the case, and so forth. And Tony, good to see you from Gatlinburg. You're my neighbor. Nice to have you tonight. We're grateful to have you. I'm just up the road from you, and we're in the hills of East Tennessee here. Good to see you tonight. Welcome to our show. Elaine, you're right. It isn't finished yet it's not finished in North Carolina. If they get any rain, there will be mudslides to destroy what is left. That's very true. And Jenny, your point about they will get fires they have fires every year in California. They took no precautions to prevent any future disaster. Jenny, I think that's what's infuriating people, and I think that's what people are finally waking up to. And that's what Justine Bateman said tonight. She said, look, we've had fires before, and they were told over and over and over again, every time we have a fire, they promised the American people, we're going to work for the American people. We're going to work with the people of California to make sure this don't happen again. That's the most overused and abused term that you've ever heard. I'm telling you, it makes me want to vomit when I hear a politician say those terms. They do not care about the American people whatsoever. Zilch. None. Zilch. Zilch. This could have, the fire itself, without knowing what started it, because I want to say this tonight, folks, we do not know what started it. We don't know if it's arson. We don't know if it's a freak of nature. I don't know. Some kid could have thrown a cigarette. I'll give you Pat Boone's take on it. And I'll just leave it at this. Pat Boone believes that it is a possibility, and I want to make it clear. I'm not saying I agree with this, but it was worth. I should have downloaded this video. But Pat Boone believes that if a terrorist wanted to do harm to our country and to a state, knowing the same weather report that Karen Bass knew about, and Gavin Newsom knew about, that if a person that didn't want to be caught or didn't want to get the attention and make it look like a natural disaster, somebody could have dropped a cigarette or lit a match and sit back and laughed as the state went up in smoke. Now, I'm not saying I agree that that's what happened. We don't know that's what happened. That's Pat Boone's take. But it's one of many plausible possibilities. Anything's possible. So, having said what I just said, the natural disaster part of this, nobody can control if it was a natural event that occurred in nature. Now, I know a lot of people out there, and I've already seen it in the chat room tonight, everybody's wanting to think that, something was done, man controlled all this, and this was on purpose and all this. We do not know that. We do not know that. It's a possibility. It's a possibility, but we do not know. And God knows. God does know. But my point tonight is that the people that paid for this, no matter what happens, is who we should be concentrating on and helping. State of California could care less about these people. And the city of Los Angeles sure could care less about them. And that's the infuriating thing. That's the infuriating thing. Anyway, let's see what else we got here. Suzanne, yes, Laura Hunter said that 250 firefighters have been deployed down there, and we hope that they're going to be allowed to go. Anyway, Marilyn, Carol Smith says, I saw a post blaming fires on climate change deniers. Really? Yeah, that's what they believe. John, I'm glad you brought up Maui. We're going to talk to James R. Monday night. They are eerily similar to the Maui fires back in August of 23, don't you think, with its pattern of destruction. They are very similar. I had lunch with Chris and Kim Allman and Kathy did today, precious friends. And we talked about Maui. And there's still a million questions about that fire 2 years ago. And I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Yes, there's a lot of questions. And there are very similar patterns here. And I'm not going to disagree with that. Totally agree. I think that it's sort of, I meant to send James a text about this because I wanted to get his take on it. But there is a similar pattern, yes. I've got my own opinion about it. I'm sort of slow to share it tonight. I may do it at a later time. James was convinced that it was not lasers in Maui. I know that there are people that disagree with that. And I know there are people that believe it was. And there are people that believe it was a deliberate act. And I guess, again, that's one of those things only God knows. Only God knows. But the way the fire started and how fast it spread, John, is eerily similar. It is. And I'm not going to disagree with that assessment of it. Carol, they are blaming this on everybody. Yes, they're blaming it on climate change deniers. They are. Laura says, does the city have shelters set up for the people with no homes? Haven't the homeless taken all the rooms? You know, Laura, that's an excellent question. Planet Fitness, which I'm no fan of, but Planet Fitness has opened all of their gyms. They have, what's left of them at least, they have opened all of theirs. I'm sure there are churches in the greater LA area that have. Your point is well taken, though. There are no shelters of the city because they're housing illegals. And that, again, you can thank godless leadership of California for that. So, good statement, Laura. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure that there are nonprofit agencies that are helping as much as they can. But right now, there's so much fire still going. Where are people going to go? I mean, I watched one video of the hospital being evacuated, and I was thinking to myself, where are they taking these patients? I mean, the whole thing of L.A. County, folks, L.A. County is on fire tonight. There are 8 fires, 10,000 acres in Eaton alone is not even 0% contained. If you get down to the full percentage of contained, it's probably the whole fire that are burning is less than 10% contained tonight. So there's still danger and even getting people to homeless shelters, because you're not sure the shelters are going to not be in the path of these fires. So it's a mess. That's all I can say. It's just a mess. It's a good question, good statement, and you're right. You're absolutely right. Let's see here. I want to come back over to our Facebook, folks, and see who we've got, what's got going on. You got 10 minutes, folks. You got 10 minutes. Anything you want to say it. Go ahead and say it while you got time. Elaine says, we know how to take care of our people with the little bit we do have. Yes, you folks do, Elaine. Good to see you tonight. And our continued prayers for you folks over in California. I really mean that. I truly do. Anyway, Elaine made a great point. She says, had the governor's mansion burnt to the ground, the people would have been forced to foot the bill for her to stay at the most expensive hotel in California. Yeah, you're meaning Gavin Bass, the mayor's mansion. You're right, Elaine. Gavin's the guy. But if the governor, if this would have been in Sacramento, you're right, state of California would have foot the bill, and they would have done just that. Folks, this is a hideous situation. There ain't no redeeming stories coming out of this other than the human survival stories. But as far as that leadership goes, the mayor, the governor, and this wokeness that's we're seeing, and everything that they've invested in and wasted, the money that's been wasted, the billions of dollars, billions that could have been spent in preparing for an event like this. This is going to go down as this is going to probably be what Katrina was to George Bush Jr. is going to be to the Democrats in 2025. What Katrina turned out to be to Bush Jr. in 2004 is going to turn, in 2006, I should say, in 5, is going to turn out to be this to the Democrats. I predict that. And for those of you that were around with Katrina, you know what that happened. All right, you got how long we've been going here? We've been going hour and 24. You got 6 minutes. Say what you got to say. Galen says, per Fox News at 8, they've now raised the death toll to 7, and that's sad to hear, Galen. I don't doubt that. I am very sad to hear that tonight. So we will say that is being reported now, that there are 7 deaths now. And I really sadly believe, Galen, that number is going to go up. I'm sure there's more than 7. We had the Gatlinburg fires here back in 2016. And, you know, John Quallam, you mentioned the Maui fire. We had a similar fire here in the hills back in 2016. And I tell you, man, the speed of these flames that engulfed Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And I saw Tony in the chat room, our new guest tonight. Tony, we're grateful for her. I don't know if she lived there then, but I tell you what, for us folks here in Tennessee, that fire has still, it still scars this part of the country to this day. Gatlinburg is one of the most prettiest tourist attractions in the southeast, and it's just now getting back on its feet. But people died in that fire, and we never got a full number on casualties because a lot of bodies they never did find. And they just surmised they were dead. And Galen, I'm sorry to hear the total, and I'm afraid that when all this is said and done, that number is going to go up anyway. Carol says, can more people die because of special needs medication shortage? Yeah, absolutely they can, Carol. They sure can. Peggy Cornish, your comment is absolutely on target. You said the environmentalists have fought local people from clearing the brush. Guess there's some kind of ground squirrel. Peggy, look, I know that sounds pretty harsh to some folks, but you're right. They're protecting this whole water issue was over an extinct fish. That's why Newsom put all the water into the ocean. These crazy environmentalists. They had more affection, they had more concern for a freaking extinct fish than they did human life. So yeah, your statement is right on. And that goes back to leadership. That's why if Chris was governor, these environmentalists wouldn't be telling me what to do, because I'd be telling them what to do. Because we're not going to put snail darters over the value of a life. But again, Chris would not be running California into the ground and into a third world hellhole like Gavin Newsom has either. And we wouldn't be killing babies. And we wouldn't be putting lesbians up as fire chiefs. And we wouldn't be putting homosexuals in office. And we wouldn't be putting people that don't know their brain from a hole in the ground in charge of things that involve people's lives. And this is the McFiles, and these opinions are mine, and I'm entitled to them. And you may think that's a little harsh, and you may not agree with that, and that's more than fine. Because this is the McFiles, and as I have affectionately said before, this ain't the U-Files. And I mean that with all the love of Jesus in my heart. A smelt fish. Yes, smelt fish. Take woke theology to its logical conclusion, and this is what you get, Jennifer. I couldn't say it better. You take woke theology and you bring it all the way to the end. What you're witnessing tonight is the end result of woke policy, woke theology, woke thinking. This is what it ultimately leads to. Amen. Amen. And amen a million times over. Laura Hunter says, I heard some electric cars were blocking the roads because they ran out of their charge. I'm not laughing at that, Laura. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. That, too, is a woke thing. They've tried to destroy the gas and coal industry in California. Gavin Newsom's tried to turn it into this green state. I don't mean this to be ugly tonight, folks. California ain't green tonight. California ain't green tonight. All of its green is gone. Folks, think about a $35 million home going up in ashes in seconds and not having the insurance to cover that. Think of the impact of that. Does that register? I think it does with this audience, but does that not register with some of these folks? $40, $50 million homes, folks. To put that kind of money in a home, to see it, poof, go up in smoke in seconds. There's a lesson in that, isn't there? There's a lesson in that. I don't know if California's hearing it or not, but anyway. Anyway. Kelly Manili, good to see you, Kelly. She says California needs reservoirs when it rains. I'll agree with that, Kelly. I'll agree with that. And again, that goes back to leadership, friend. That goes back to the leadership. California has done none of that. California has done none of that. They've not prepared for this. And again, I do not blame Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass for the fires themselves, folks. That's something they cannot control. And look, just throw all the possibility out that this is on purpose, okay? So if it is on purpose, then we'll address that when we cross that bridge. But for argument's sake, let's just say that this is a natural disaster. A spark or something happened, and that this fire just started by natural means. That's not their fault. What is their fault is not having the city prepared for such a disaster. Because the second these fires started, had they been doing their jobs, they would have had enough water for this. They would have made sure the fire hydrants worked. They would have made sure that they were... By the way, from what I understand, there was no warning given to the people of Palisades Hills Tuesday night that there was even fires coming down the pike. There was a lady on Fox News said, we got no warning. We were not told what to do. We didn't know what was happening. That goes back to leadership. Why wouldn't you told? I tell you why, because your mayor was partying it up in Ghana. Your mayor was partying it up in Ghana. Those things are on leadership. Those things are on their account. You're right, friend. You're right. I like James Woods too, Kelly. One final comment or two. Peggy says they finally got bulldozers to push cars out of the way so fire trucks could get in there. Well, Peggy, it's about time. We'll see. Look, folks, I want to make it clear tonight about these comments. I am not directing these comments at the people of California. I am directing this at the leadership of California. Please understand this tonight. I have a lot of sadness and empathy and sympathy for all of these scenes that we see coming out of that state. I do. We may address some of the spiritual aspects of this tomorrow night, maybe Sunday. But I will tell you that as far as the people go, I have nothing but concern and love and our prayers and our absolute sorrow that go out to the people of California tonight for what's happened. But I think what's infuriating, even the left, even some on the left that's waking up to what's happened tonight, is what Jennifer said. They have now realized, and they've woken up, pardon the pun, they've woken up to the fact that their wokeness and the way they voted for these woke politicians has led to this. And the end game was not what they expected. The end game of their wokeness was not what they envisioned. It's been a nightmare instead of their utopia dream. And that's on leadership. And I have no sympathy for the leadership. I think that Gavin Newsom should be charged criminally. I think Karen Bass should be removed from office immediately for malfeasance of office. And I'm not so sure that she shouldn't be charged criminally for criminal neglect and the dereliction of duties of her office. I'm not going to call her a friend, but when I worked with the newspaper, there was a judge down in South Georgia, and she got charged criminally. I had to serve on the jury. Wasn't able to serve, but I got called into jury duty to be on her jury, and they dismissed me because I knew her. They were charging her for criminal misconduct and malfeasance of office as a judge. This was way back in the 90s? Yeah, way back in the early 90s. And the way I look at it, if there's not a case for that tonight, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. California, you need to impeach your governor. In LA, you need to impeach. You need to impeach your mayor. I hope I'm right too, Jim. I hope I'm right too. Mark, you say Democrats can't govern, but they will get Trump derangement when Trump points the idiocracy out. You know, Mark, that's what they're doing right now. That's what they're doing right now. Jennifer says in Florida they dig and create backburn lines to stop the spread. They have such high winds that wouldn't even help. And Cindy, you say Golden Globes. What about the Golden Globes? I don't care about the Golden Globes. I could care less about the Golden Globes. Who cares? The least of my worries tonight is these stupid awards I don't even watch, that Hollywood pats themselves on the back for pushing perversion on this country. I don't rejoice in any of that. I did read today that some of the awards are going to be put off. I'm not going to lose a bit of sleep over it. Trust me. I don't care about the Golden Globes. I don't care about the Emmys. I don't care about the Oscars. I don't even give 2 cents. Don't even waste my that much energy thinking about it. Could care less about it. Could care less about it. But I will tell you this. My brother shared this with me, and we're done. I've got 5 minutes, and we're done. We went an hour and a half. Listen, he told me this. You know, at 9/11, the sports world stopped for 1 week. You realize that all the football games, all the baseball games, all the basketball games, after 9/11 hit, the world stopped for 5 days. There were no professional baseball games. There were no professional football games. There were no professional sporting events. Everything ceased because of the tragedy of 9/11. And I'm reading tonight that the movie industry, whatever you want to call it, is coming to a halt. And I'm going to just piggyback on something I saw, the word judgment. Perhaps, and I'll deal with this more tomorrow night and Sunday night on the spiritual end of this, perhaps maybe this is a message to the movie industry that has done nothing but produce filth and perversion and mock God and blaspheme God with their movies and mock Christians and push homosexuality, push perversion, push transgenderism, push all this stuff through their godless stuff. Perhaps this stoppage is a blessing to the country. I know that sounds a little harsh to some, and that's all right. As I said, we Southerners, we just look at things from a common sense point of view. We got a heart of gold and a mouth of fire. We got a heart of gold and a mouth of fire. But one thing we've got is moral clarity. And we see things with integrity, character, and common sense. I'll take that over anything I'm seeing in the leadership of California tonight. I may not have a $35 million home. Don't want one. But I got something in here that's more precious than that. And I'm praying for you folks in California tonight that you get it too. I really do. I hope you do. I hope you don't. Anyway, did you get something out of this? Did you get something out of this? Put some fire in that house if you enjoyed the show tonight. John, I hope he stops the winds too, but this may be... Look, I'll deal with the spiritual aspect of it, John. Look, God's not taking any pleasure in these fires. God's not taking any pleasure in them. I'm praying there's no more loss of life. I am. But this is biblical. In many ways, these people that are saying this is biblical and prophetic and apocalyptic, they don't even realize what they're saying, John, but they're right. It's biblical. I look at this event as possibly, I'm not saying it is, this may overshadow Katrina. And you know, I thought Katrina was a life-changing event in this country. Our country was not the same in many ways after Katrina. And we've had, God knows, numerous natural disasters since that time. But Katrina sort of stands out for many reasons. And this one's going to stand out. I think this one's going to stand out even more than the terrorist attack New Year's Eve. But this year. And we're just 9 days in, buddy. Look, I don't want to see no more death. I don't. But it's going to take God's people praying in California, John. I know you're one of them, man. I know you're one of them. And I'm praying for you. And I'm praying for all the people of California tonight to be safe. I really am. If you got something out of the show, say amen. If you got something out of the show, say amen. Good to see everybody in the house tonight. I had a good crowd tonight. And we appreciate you being with us. All opinions on the McFiles are mine. If you'd like to rebut and to pontificate, or whatever that word was that O'Reilly used, pontificate, I can't even say it. McFilesForum@gmail.com. And we appreciate you being with us. We'll be back here tomorrow night. We'll be back here in the morning on the Faith Network. We'll probably do a little live scope tomorrow on Facebook. Show you some of the snow that's coming. And that's all I got to say tonight. I want to take my hat off. I do want to say a prayer for the people of California tonight before we leave. Father, I just thank you for helping the firefighters of California. I pray that, Lord, you touch these homes, these families that have lost everything. I pray, Father, that you comfort the ones that have lost life. Father, I pray, beyond this, that you quicken the hearts of the people of California to wake up to the realities around them tonight. And through this tragedy, faith arise from the ashes. True faith in Christ. Father, I pray for these firefighters tonight, too, that are risking their lives. For sadly, some people, folks, that won't even appreciate what they're doing. But Father, I thank you for their bravery and their courage in the face of this. And Father, these states that are sending other firefighters and sending supplies and sending other things, I pray for that tonight too as well. And we ask you, Father, to be with California tonight as they battle this blaze. And Lord, I pray for a change of leadership at the top, both in the mayor and the governor tonight. I pray that you put godly people over that state. In the precious name of Jesus, we ask and pray. And again, we pray for the people that have lost lives, their families, and we pray for the ones that have lost property. In Jesus' name. And as we say, all of God's people said, amen. Have a good night, everybody. See you back here tomorrow. Our prayers for California. Good night.